Hello, hello, hello. Welcome back to Our Perspective. It's your host, Mariah here. I know you're probably wondering, why are you in your car? Listen, I have been committed to be consistent to OP and to you all, so this is what we gotta do. Okay? Okay. As you can see from the title of this video, we're gonna be talking about avoidant attachment. Now, if you listen to the last episode, we talked a little bit about anxious attachment, what that means, what that looks like, what it relates to. If you haven't seen that video, please go check it out. Today we're going to be talking about avoidant attachment, which is kind of a little bit opposite of what anxious attachment is and what that looks like as far as interacting with people who are anxious. Avoidant attachment is essentially the name of it. Like, you are avoidant. You may be avoidant to different conversations, you may be avoidant to experiences, you may be avoidant to certain things in a relationship, you may be avoidant to your emotions, things like that. And what that means as far as where it derives from, just like anxious attachment, it can derive from your childhood. And what that looks like is, say for example, if I have a parent that I grew up with that was emotionally unavailable and didn't really know how to process or talk about their feelings, and that essentially didn't create a safe space for me to talk about and express my feelings, so I just suppressed them. And that kind of fosters a avoidant trait, I would say, because this is learned behavior. And growing into adulthood, me still carrying that trait makes me avoidant to anything that would lead me to be vulnerable, and that can be very destructive. It could be a big issue in communicating with other people, whether it be in like an intimate setting, whether it be in a workplace setting, a friendship setting, wherever. You are avoidant to being vulnerable, you're avoidant to expressing yourself, you're avoidant to communicating. So you could only imagine what that looks like for somebody who struggles to communicate how they feel, or don't know how to find the words really, or just avoids it altogether. Like, I'm not talking about it, that's it. And I'm sure as a listener you have come across or have been that person who has felt that way. So kind of think about what it is to be that person and how it is to be the person on the receiving side of that. It's not healthy. It's not. So as I said before in previous episode, please don't mind me looking down on my notes. I want to make sure that I'm on track, because I tend to go on a tangent, and that's not good for neither of us. So forgive me, please. So I talked a little bit about like the avoidance of being vulnerable, or like the fear of being vulnerable, and with that comes hyper independence. And if you don't know what that means, if, say for example, I am struggling with a situation, or I may know I need help with a certain situation, but I refuse to ask for help because I don't want to be in a vulnerable state. Asking for help is you're putting yourself in a vulnerable state to kind of like send a message that you need guidance and you need help. So being avoidant, you're in the headspace of, I'm not going to ask for that because I fear rejection. You don't want no one to have the opportunity to tell you no. And that's not being in a control space, but it's the fear of that vulnerability. How it impacts us as an adult, like I said before, it influences the way we are as adults, the way we communicate with other people, the way we show up for other people, the way or the absence of people showing up for us because of the way we are. And people with avoidant attachment styles tend to avoid conflict altogether. Like, I don't want to deal with it. Is that healthy? No. Because some conflict is good. And there is necessary to have certain conversations. I'm not saying all conflict is good, but being able to communicate and have those conversations are necessary in different relationships, and that's important. So this can affect your family relationships, this can affect your romantic relationships, this can affect your intimate relationships. Think of a person who is fearful of vulnerability and what that may look like in their relationships. And you can, like, okay, I'm gonna give an example. Say someone has a fear of being vulnerable, and they really like this person and they want to kind of get to know this person. When it starts to get in the stages of getting to know somebody, you're kind of opening up parts of yourself that are like underneath the surface level. So the deeper you go with getting to know each other, the more fearful the avoidant person becomes, because now this person is getting closer to me, now this person wants to know or is getting to know more about me, this person is kind of seeing my vulnerability and what that may look like in real life. I'm gonna ghost this person because I'm fearful of vulnerability, and this has nothing to do with them, this has more to do with me, because I don't want nobody to get that close to me because I fear rejection. That's an example. What it also looks like as far as like in relationships, you may avoid certain conversations so you can try to work around that level of vulnerability or the level of deepness within a connection, whether it be friendship, relationship. You're really avoidant to that. It's almost like you have a glass of water, but someone could look at the glass of water, they can't touch it. That's what an avoidant person may seem like. On the outside, you could see them as a person, but if you touch the water, that's kind of knowing what the water feel like, right? So this is where I would encourage you to kind of reflect on your own attachment style. If you are avoidant or if you are anxious attachment, what that means for you and how that has influenced your relationships that you have right now, how it may have influenced your relationships that you may have in the past, and how can you work at that? Like, how can you become a more self-aware person, and how can you build a better emotional connection with yourself so you can have a better emotional connection with other people? Definitely things to think about. I do want to point out that this is my perception. Don't take it as a fact, but I don't think that attachment styles can be fixed. I think that with the more awareness we have, the more work that we do, we can become aware of our behaviors and how we react to things and our emotions. And there's things that we can do to change our behaviors, but I don't think our attachment style necessarily is fully changed, because this is coming from our childhood. These are conditioned and learned behaviors that our culture is intertwined with, the way we grew up, the way our parents raised us or our family has raised us, the things that we have seen. So I don't think there's like a cure, but there's definitely tools and awareness and coping things that you can use in order to create a better relationship with yourself, so you can have better relationships with other people. Something that I want to also say, that definitely in the minority culture, we look at vulnerability as a weakness, and that is not necessarily true. That is in fact a generational curse, and that's something that we need to kind of get out of, because that has rid us from so many experiences and instill that fear in us that we can't get too close to nobody. Now, I'm not saying the world is sunshine and rainbows. There are things that happen and you may not be able to trust everybody, but in order to have a healthy working relationships with the people around you, you're going to have some level of trust. And that may come with levels of vulnerability. And that is okay. That is okay. Human connection is like the number one thing that we need to help us grow, to help us be who we are, to help us find ourselves. Not saying you find yourself in other people, but it kind of assists you with being able to find yourself. You know? So, if you have an anxious or avoidant attachment, it's going to be vital for you to kind of work on creating that secure relationship with the people in your life. And you can do that through various things, various coping styles. If you would like another video for me to talk more about that, I surely can do that. Please let me know in the comments or DM us. But that definitely is a different episode. But it's just as important as this topic, because having the self-awareness is just one step. Like, you just touching the surface, honey. You need to know what that means for you and how to cope through that. So, if you would like to know more about the techniques with different attachment styles and what to do, or how to get past the awareness and move towards creating healthy relationship with yourself and other people, let me know. Could definitely talk about that. If you have a partner or people in your life with avoidant attachment styles, or they're just an avoidant person, I would say the main thing you can do is be there for them and approach them with a lot of patience. You need patience. You definitely need patience. I'm going to tell you that. Because like I said before, people with this attachment style are fearful. Like, it's a crippling fear of anxiety. Of avoidance. So when you approach them with grace and patience, it assists them with like opening up a little bit, or taking slow steps on, okay, this is safe. This environment is safe. Also, another thing that is important is to respect your own boundaries and respect their boundaries, because this creates a level of trust and consistency. When you are consistent with giving them grace, when you are consistent with being patient and listening to their boundaries, it is helpful to create that healthy relationship. They won't be as avoidant, or they won't be as anxious, or they won't be as fearful of being vulnerable with you or expressing their emotions. And when I mean expressing emotions, it can be down to the littlest things, like, I think you dress nice, or I like the way you boom, boom, boom. That's still a level of vulnerability. You may think it may be a simple compliment, but honey, someone who is avoidant, that's like, I don't want them to think that. I don't want them to know that I like them. I don't want them to know I feel this way about them. Those are the kind of thoughts that go through their head, and that's just an example. And another thing is, do not push hard. Do not push hard for the person to talk to you. Don't push hard for the person to express themselves, because that may run them away. They may ghost you, to be honest. And if you're the avoidant person, you know you're about to ghost them. Emotional intimacy is a very touchy subject for both anxious and avoidant people. So I would just say, all in all, give each other grace, give each other patience, be communicative, if that's a word. We're going to make it up. But give grace. Definitely give grace. So some resources that you can use in order to kind of get to know more about yourself, have that level of self-awareness, is definitely therapy. And you know I'm a go hard, die hard for therapy. I'm gonna be honest, I am. Sorry, not sorry. Because I've had lived experience with therapy, and I know many people who have benefited from it. And please know that therapy is not a one-stop shop, honey. It requires you to work on yourself. It requires you to unpack things that you didn't even know was packed up. You need to unzip that bag, honey. Unzip it, the bag. There's a beauty that comes with vulnerability. It doesn't always have to be scary. And you may not settle with the first therapist you find, and that's okay. You gotta find someone that you match with, that you click with. Therapy is not like a 1, 2, 3. It's a relationship that you build with your therapist in order to be confident in being vulnerable and share some things that you know you may need a little assistance with. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that. Please, there's nothing wrong with that. So definitely, if you've been contemplating, this is your sign to use therapy as a resource, because there's certain techniques that therapists use, there's research behind therapy, and there's coping strategies that they can give you that might help you. And therapy doesn't have to be forever either. It doesn't. So give it a shot, okay? I would also suggest reading some books. If you're a reader, definitely read some books on personal development or psychology books on attachment styles or trauma and things like that. That can definitely assist you with gaining a little bit more knowledge on trauma, the way we learn, the way we cope, the way we behave. Those things that you can never regret knowing, like reading or listening about those things, you won't waste your time doing, because that's something that is important, and we engage with it every day. So definitely look into that. So I would say, as a wrap up to this episode, I hope you enjoyed it. We learned a little bit more about avoidant attachment and how avoidance can show up in our relationships. Avoidance can show up within ourselves, and what that looks like with vulnerability. I encourage you as a listener to dive a little deeper on your own attachment style, whether that be avoidant, whether it be anxious. Definitely get to know yourself and get to know, kind of like, see the type of people that you're surrounding yourself with. Is this person scared of vulnerability? Does this person struggle with expressing themselves? Do I struggle with expressing myself, and how can I help myself do that? Like, what is the block? Why am I scared? What makes me fearful of that? Definitely. It's not a waste of time. It's never a waste of time to learn more about you. Take time with you. Sit with you. You live in your body. You're going to live in your body for the rest of your life. Why not take that time to learn about yourself? You're not going to regret it. I promise you, you're not going to regret it. It may be uncomfortable. I'm not going to say it's easy, but you're not going to regret it. As you're learning more about your attachment style, or have any questions, please feel free to DM us on Instagram, comment, like, and subscribe on our channel, or leave a comment on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, whatever you choose. Please connect with us. Ask us questions, send us reflections, things like that. We want to hear. We want to hear your story. We want to hear more about you. And let us know what else you would like to hear on our perspective. Remember that growth is not linear. It is not a race. There may be bumps in the road. You may have to swerve and curve and go over and go under, but you will get there. You will get there. So I think I said to close off the episode like 10 minutes ago, but it's okay. You see, I tell y'all, I be going on a tangent. It's not cute. It's not cute. I wanted to leave you guys with journal prompts as a challenge to reflect a little bit. And if you do answer these questions, please let us know. You don't have to tell us your answers, but let us know how it made you feel or what you've learned out of them. So the questions are: number 1, what makes you feel safe and secure in a relationship? And this can be any type of relationship you choose: familial, intimate, friendship. What fears come up when I think about relying on someone emotionally? And how can I practice being more vulnerable in my relationships? And I'm going to add one more. How can I practice being more vulnerable with myself? So yes, I challenge you all to kind of work through those questions. If you come to any realizations or want to share anything with us, please feel free to share. Seize the day, don't let the day seize you, and we will see you next time.